Hi, guys. Before you get into the next amazing conversation with another amazing guest, I just wanted to tell you I have now moved over to Substack. So it's the Never Settle Podcast.substack.com. The reason I've done that is because of the increase in censorship I am finding on YouTube, and I'm worried that maybe one day they're going to deplatform me. So please head over to Substack and subscribe. I'm very new into it. It's growing. There will be a lot more content on there going forwards and hope to see you over there. Well, hello, lovely listeners, and welcome, viewers. Today I have the wonderful Michael Henry. Michael has been a good boy all his life, worked hard, but in 2019 was fired because he refused to wear a mask. And we know what masks we're talking about here. And then a few years later, 2 years ago, he was apprehended by the police for cycling on a pavement. Yes, people, you've heard that correctly. So, I mean, I just look around the city I live in, see all these Uber drivers, riders, and whatever, Just Eats, flying around. None of them have got lights on their bikes. How none of them have been killed, I have no idea. Maybe they have. Um, but there is no consideration. They do what they want. They've got no lights. I never see them getting stopped. But Michael, who had a child seat on that car, on that bike as well, got stopped for being on the pavement. And that has started a whole world of pain for Michael, which he's going to talk to us about. Because we need to know. I mean, we know already that the police are pretty corrupt these days and they don't really know what they're doing. They don't know the law, that's for sure. And Michael, who is well versed in the law and has done a lot of research himself, um, is very intelligent and has been able to stand his ground up to this point. So he wants to talk into more about what's gone on for him. So thank you so much, Michael, for being here today. It's an absolute pleasure to have you.
You're welcome, Melon. Thank you very much for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome. So, come on then, Michael. We love a backstory. Give us a little bit of a backstory, and were you always challenging things, or is this something that's happened to you later in life? What sort of started your journey off?
I've always been I've always been into me law and me conspiracies and the government. I know the government are not to be trusted, but it was mainly in 2019, Mel, what really woke me up. I was watching the bodies in Wuhan, and I thought it was moody. It didn't convince me there was anything going on. Then I done a bit of research about what was his name, the guy who invented the PCR, Kerry Mullis.
Yeah.
Gary Mullis said he got an interview out and he said that the polymerase chain reaction test is not to be used as a diagnostic. If it's moved at so many revolutions, it gives 99% false positives. So then he went missing. So I just the more and more I dug, Mel, the more I found. And then he come to me one day and said, and it was in July. It was very hot. I was on a very physical job. So I nearly passed out wearing this mask. So I thought that's not like me, that. And then I got a bit hot and bothered again in it. And then I said I'm not wearing it. So they give me a visor, and that was the same. It was steaming up. So I said to them, right, here's a conditional acceptance. So I emailed the top bosses in there and said that usually the people to come to when there's a problem with health and safety at work. I said, basically, I'll conditionally accept your offer it's a unilateral contract offer. I already had a contract in place, Mel. So they're now changing the contract I had in place now. So I said, fair enough, I'll accept your offer, remaining on it. I said, but here's some conditions. And one of the conditions, Mel, was a risk assessment and an impact assessment to prove that if I wore it for 6 months, I'm not going to get hypocapnia, hypoxia, or bacterial pneumonia, because that could then lead to the misdiagnosis of the alleged virus that was going on at the time. Anyway, when I asked for this documentation, they ran away, literally ran away. Then I went through a process of a tribunal. I reached out to some good people. Anna de Wizard, God bless her. She came to my aid on the last day of the tribunal, and she gave me a pretty bomb-proof closing submissions of the laws, international treaties that have been breached and broken by this action. And it was every point of the Nuremberg Code was being broken because the subject, when it comes to medical experimentation, which is what it is without a risk assessment, the subject has to give informed consent. That was what the Nuremberg was all about. And from then, it just went on. So in the court, I produced this closing submissions right at the end. And then the judge come in and awarded Jaguar the win. I said, "Excuse me, judge, what about all the international war crimes treaties and that on me closing submissions?" And the judge said, "I cannot address them in my jurisdiction." Now, I'm not an expert at law, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't matter what corporation you're working for, if you're committing war crimes, they should be brought to task. So what she's saying is, a corporate jurisdiction, with a bar associate and all that, where they use the legal fiction, that gives them carte blanche to commit global genocide. I beg to differ on that.
Well, we know these
That
courts.
can't be right because then you get all people be using corporate shields to commit genocide. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we know these
But
courts.
I mean, the thing is, Mel, it's because if you're using that legal fiction name, you are subject to the crown. Now, if you're the property of something, wouldn't that mean that they could do as they wish with their property? Because they call you human resources, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I've since rescinded all that now. So I'm back on Legum Terre now, which is the Magna Carta law of the land, with me
My,
lawful standing.
Michael, so in terms of obviously Jaguar Land Rover is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest employer in this country.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, there's a lot of indoctrination there, obviously, isn't there, in terms of it's a massive corporate. The mask mandates and the everything else that went on was huge. And I know that because I knew some people that worked there. Um, so basically, they fired you for not wearing a mask.
yeah. But I mean, I've tracked it quite well, Mel. So as I'm doing this process, like a notice of conditional acceptance, yeah, recorded delivery signed for, and then I give them 7 days to to negotiate their terms. It's like a game of tennis, Mel. So they just totally ignore this. So I sent them the same terms on a notice of fault, an opportunity to cure, and give them another 7 days. And when they ignored that one, I said the notice of default. I said, now we are in agreement. You had two opportunities to answer the questions, to sort it out and let's go back to work. So they just ignored it. So they're in agreement with me by tacit omission. So I said, now we're in agreement with the following 10 facts. And then, so there's no evidence to produce. There is no evidence to produce. And then I sent that as a notice of default. Then I went to Houston. Then I found a lot of the notaries, Mel. I didn't have a hard time finding a notary. I was on a phone for 3 or 4 days, and I found one in Houston who hadn't been scared off by the death threats and all that. So I went down and notarized it in an affidavit, and I give them another 30 days to rebut that, and they didn't. So then I sent in a notice of security instrument and asked them for 12 years' pay, and he just ignored it. So it's gone after another 30 days, it goes to times three. And then after the 90 days, it's what you call a perfected commercial lien, and it goes to exemplary charges then. So it's not really about the money though, Mel. But as I say, if they'd back then at the time, if they'd have slid me a check with the 12 years pay on it and an NDA, very likely would have took it and sold me soul in the process. So I have to thank them for that because I was too a bit naive. I'd have took it for the money, and
I,
it's not even backed by nothing, Mel. See, I'd have took that money and they'd inflated the market prices, and it wouldn't be worth 80 grand to me.
yeah. But I know you, so obviously they've ignored pretty much everything by the sounds of it. Are you doing any more with that to try and extort that money?
Yeah, well, I'm just waiting for the. See, the only way I'm going to cash that now, Mel, is like with the likes of what Albanese is doing on these the well marshals. That anyone who can cash it is going to be like a natural law court. You're not going to be able to do it because they've got the system pretty tied up in the commercial realm, haven't they? So it's going to have to be when when we get our own courts up and running. And a gentleman who's helped me, Mel. Uh, Adam, he's from Canada. He's now a judge for Queen Romana, and they've started doing cases. So I'm keeping a keen eye on that because I might reach out to them. There's got to be a way to cash him out because it's a perfected instrument. It's a security instrument. It's worth more than the fiat currency that we're using.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact.
Okay. All right, so you went through all that debacle, and the corporation proved itself to be a big shit like they always are. And I just it beggars belief that people were put through this shit because of not wearing masks and other things, as we know. So a couple of years ago, you were going to get your little girl from school, and you happened to go on the pavement just for a tiny bit, to get yourself wherever you were going to, and some copper, whatever he's called, decides to stop you. Is that right?
That's correct, Mel. Yeah, it was in May. I'm not sure of the exact date. It was in May 2023. I was stopped riding my bike to collect my daughter from school. Yeah, by a young busy. He obviously didn't know the law because it was if there's no victim, there's no crime. So when you understand the law, he's coming at me, also acting ultra vires. So he's taking a wage mill to protect my constitutional rights, but at the same time, he's assuming and presuming that I'm beneath him when I was one of the taxpayers paying his wages. So as we know, Mel, you don't bite the hand that feeds you. And this young gentleman, he's got a lot. He's got a lot to learn about law, but he's created an absolute shitstorm for his boss. And I've recently reached out to Vet Cooper. They're all bent, but if that landed on my desk, he'd be out of a job tomorrow because this is just it's just gone from that to that. It's gone like that on a graph scale, bump over something so stupid. And I told him I'm going to collect my daughter from school, and he said allegedly he's going to collect his daughter from school. And then when I got to the desk sergeant, when he eventually kidnapped me, and, trafficked me and then put me in a prison. I said, I need to use the phone. He said, why? I said, someone's going to have to collect my daughter from school. And the young copper just looked at the floor. But it's disgusting that I've got a moral obligation to look after my daughter, and these are just stopping with the forcing the contract offers. And I've got unlimited power to contract now. So I considered his offer. It didn't work for me. So I declined it. And it made him somewhat irate. But he's probably a budding young Freemason, isn't he? He wants a quick promotion. And he's got to get he's got to bully contracts, criminal coerce contracts to squeeze money out of legal fictions, which we're not.
So was he trying to fine you? What was he trying to do when he
Well, he
first
was he
stopped
was
you?
he wasn't trying to fine me, Mel. He's made me a contract offer, for £30 or whatever. Now it's a corporate policy, and I mean, I haven't really checked it, Mel. But if riding a bike on a pavement's being given royal assent, I'll eat my hat. So I
Yeah.
just declined it, and
You
then
declined it, and then he got heavy with you.
well, he's just grabbed me. Then, like he said, that's grounds for me to search you. So according to this gentleman, which you know is a load of rubbish, a man no longer has unlimited power to contract, and that's bullshit because we do. 'Cause you can't coerce a contract. A contract, it's enshrined in canon law. The consent cannot be manufactured. It's got to be willing. That's why they needed people to take the vaccine off their own back to cover them.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
an offer to everything's an offer to contract. You consider it, and the way things are now, mate. Take your time. Say, let me go and have a look at the paperwork, and I'll get back to you in a week.
yeah.
Yeah,
So basically, he bundled you into a van or something, did he?
yeah. They just took me bike to a different police station, and then took me in a van to Lane Police Station. I told them I wasn't authorised to contract for that name, having given power of attorney to a foreign private trust. See, in law, Mel, in the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights, Article 16, every man or woman, now they're key words then, Mel, every man or woman. So there's recognition in an international treaty, which is higher than all these laws, the statutes these thrown out. So every man or woman has the right to be identified before the courts as a person. Yeah. Now that doesn't mean the counts person. That's where they're tricking you. So I've created my own person, yeah, which is a trust. So I conveyed title of the fiction into my private trust. So I've got my own person, but they don't want to recognise that person. They want me to be their person because he who creates owns. And if I use their name, I'm committing fraud, and that legalises taxation. It's took me quite a while to get my head around it, but when you see it for what it is, it's an absolute privilege to speak it.
Yeah.
Satanic to the core. It's the enslavement of mankind, but it was so subtle. It was so subtle. It's just a privilege to be awake to it. Thanks to this young gentleman who had an add-on for promotion.
So when you went to the police station and you refused to contract in the way that they wanted you to, they then what banged you up?
Well, I think when you go in there, they want your name and all that. I said Rice versus Connolly. I said I don't consent to contract. My biometrics are covered under my private trust fee schedule. I said if you want to take any photographs, blood, fingerprints, it's all subject to fee schedule. And he just said, listen, if you don't give us your fingerprints, we'll get five ebbies from upstairs, Matrix, to come down and forcibly take them. I said, when you put it so eloquently, I said, I'll give you them under extreme duress and I will sign as such, which is what I did.
Okay, so you gave your fingerprints in the end.
Yeah,
Right.
and then you've got the fictional name then through the coerced fingerprints, which is a breach of contract law.
And so then what happened?
Um, Then it was released. I'm given a court date. So I've sent me power of attorney to the court with the correct paperwork. It was mailed into them, recorded delivery, signed for. So if all men are equal under the law, I can convey title, power of attorney for the entity away because it's a fiction, and that's the word tells you that because it's all caps. Now anything in all caps, according to the Chicago Manual Styles, is one of three things. It's either a trust, an acronym, or a corporation. So it's a trust created by the state for my vested benefit. And there's actually case law supporting this, Mel. I don't know whether you want me to read it out because this case law, Mel, it's very important because
Yeah.
in 95 in the Royal Court of Justice,
Yeah, I think,
there's a gentleman called John Colthorpe. Now this man was an Essex fruit grower, and they were trying to stop him getting access to his son's estate. So I'll just read it out to you now. It's a very
yeah,
important case. The Home Office actually banned him. He wrote a book about it, and the Home Office actually banned his book. So in the case of John Colthorpe versus the Masonic Trust on the 2nd of February 1995 at the Royal Court of Justice, this divine case law proves non-disclosure of the Masonic Trust breached Article 29 of the Magna Carta 1215. The body of a free man is not to be arrested, imprisoned, or disseized. Now that's the key word, email, disseized. So the seizing your estate, the relieving you of your estate by fraud, or outlawed, or exiled, or in any way ruined, nor is this king to go against him, or send forcibly against him, except by judgment of his peers, or by the law of the land. So that's gone in there, but they tried to bury this case, Mel. And as I say, the Home Office uh, bans his book from all main bookstores. Which we've been here before, Mel. That's what they done during World War II, wasn't it?
so in simple terms, what did this fruit grower from Essex win?
Well, he won. What he's done, he's proved on the High Court on appeal that Magna Carta Article 29 is constitutional law that
Right,
trumps all these bullshit statutes and acts that they're bringing in.
right.
You know, I think it states three times in the Magna Carta, Mel, or is that the Bill of Rights? I might be mistaken. Perpetuity, the word perpetuity. That might be the Bill of Rights, that though, but the Bill of Rights is subservient to the Magna Carta. So he basically proved that Article 29 is as lawful standing, and this was in 95.
Yeah,
But they don't like it when you're citing these inalienable rights. It's a word that they don't like. But that's because they can't repeal it because the constitutional constraints on the majesty. Now, what they've done is, in 71, they've deposed the monarch from the monarch to head of state. Now, there's been a lot of arguments going on about it, but the word state is a corporation. So, as we all know, in law, nobody can serve two masters. That's biblical. So you're either a monarch and you serve the people, or you're a corporation and you serve the shareholders, but you can't serve both. Yeah. So when they've deposed the monarch, that day is treason, 1771. So anyone who thinks they're still bound by the coronation oath, because they broke it. Once the contract's broke, you're free from all obligation. That's contract law.
yeah. So, so you were free to go, and then you went to court. You quoted the case law, and what happened?
I actually sent me part of attorney to court, and they wouldn't acknowledge him. So
And when you
he's
say your power of attorney, who was that?
that's a friend of mine, Peter. But there's actually a video as well, Mel. Phil, Phil and Peter both went in to St. Anne's police station and sat down and told them, listen, if you're gonna come again, we need to see the warrant. We need to see the grammatics on the warrant. Are you coming for the fiction or are you coming for the man? Because he's not authorised to speak for the fiction no more. So we need to see the warrant and we need to ascertain the author of the warrant for said bonds and oaths. And they wouldn't give them it. It's a good video, Mel. I'll send you it. Yeah, he done me proud, the lads there when he went in. And he wouldn't give the warrant, and he wouldn't accept a cease and desist order. So they keep coming for the fiction. They want me to play dead, you know. But I'm not. I'm done. I'm done with it. I resigned from it in 2022. So what kind of job do you, Mel, is that where you resign and you must have a retention clause in the contract that you never signed in the first place?
And how did you resign from it? Was that through an affidavit or?
No, I sent a notice of resignation to Serena Kennedy. No, not Serena Kennedy. Suella Braverman and another fella, too high up. I think one was the attorney,
Attorney General?
attorney general, and there was another one, a similar office smell. I can't remember his title, but the two of them in my bundle. So I basically told them I'll no longer hold office for the Crown entity known as, you know, the Mister. So that's due to me. It's been to give me a job and not pay me, Mel. It's a breach of me. It's a fundamental breach of me constitutional rights. You know, it's slavery, isn't it? So I called them out on that and resigned. But there must be a adhesion clause in the contract that I never signed in the first place. It's bizarre, isn't it?
Did you get a response on that?
No, but that's. I said to them, should you not respond? You know, with an agreement that you know the office is empty. It's not me.
And
So
have you shared that with the police to say this
well,
is
that's it. That's been sent into the court several times, you know, and it's been sent in with memorandums of trust from me trust, but they just don't. They don't want to know. You know, the acknowledgement of the jurisdiction that they move around in is not for us, as far as they're concerned. We're illiterate plebeians, even though now we've educated ourselves enough to read the sign, which is biblical. You must learn to read the sign, and that's the all caps sign language. It's not English. You assume and presume it's English, which is why they call you a illiterate plebeian and put you in a lower jurisdiction. But you educate yourself and you work hard to do it, and you know you're working hard to benefit society on the whole, and they don't want that.
no.
They don't want that because they can't live it up. Then they've got no one to enslave.
So where what happened next then? Where have we got to with this? Because they pulled you over for cycling on a pavement, and
Yeah,
then they searched you. Then they coerced you into giving you biometrics.
yeah, and
But
then
they're still coming after you. So
yeah,
what?
well,
Why?
then I was released, Mel, given a court date. And as I say, my power of attorney went in, so they wouldn't recognise my power of attorney. They issued a warrant. They wouldn't say who signed the warrant. They wouldn't, you know, they wouldn't show the warrant. Then the policeman's come without the warrant. It was all videos. Then I was on 2 weeks in our course prison, and then I was released without charge because I wouldn't take the name. I told him I'm not going to commit fraud. I'm not taking the name. You own the name. I said if you change the grammar on the name, I said I'll gladly do it. But they can't do that now because if they change the grammar on the name, there has to be an injured party who's put a verified criminal complaint in, and they're lacking that as well. So without no verified criminal complaint, there's no claimant. See, even now, the claimant is Rex, which is the CPS. Now, I very much doubt Rex is out of pocket because he's fleecing every other one on the street. So there's still no case, but they're relying on me to go in and impersonate another by using their name, which I'm not going to do, and they will not change the name to my name. So they're actually in breach of their obligations to the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights, Article 18, to protect my faith and hold my faith harmless. And my faith says, let me not, I pray you, accept another man's person as he who creates owns, and that'll put me under their jurisdiction, which I don't want. If I stay in the Crown's jurisdiction now, I'll be in treason as a secondary offender with full knowledge, and ignorance of law is no excuse.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm not. I don't know where I don't know where they're going with it. And if you, to be honest, Mel, I'm gonna need a pretty good accountant because the more they come, it's just more torts. You've got a tort of battery, a tort of deception. It's gone through. It's breached loads of canon laws. It's breaching all kinds of scripture, which their oath is to uphold the Christian faith. It's absolutely bizarre, and they keep on coming, so I just keep on documenting. But the paperwork's getting that heavy now, though, Mel. I'm gonna need a mathematician team to calculate the torts. And it's not about the money, Mel. But I want to build them for everything. I want to build them for everything.
There'll be some people listening going, why didn't you just pay the 30 quid fine?
But because I'm guilty by association, and I'm directly funding terrorism. And one who seeks equity, he's got to come with clean hands. So if I say, oh, he's all right, Tim, he's only killing a couple of hundred kids in Gaza, I'll give him another 30 quid for a load of bullets. I'm just as bad as them. Or give him another 30 quid towards the next booster, so they can do more of me family and friends in. No
Yeah.
chance.
Yeah.
Ignorance of law is no excuse. That's a fact. And I've actually thought about it, Mel, but I wouldn't have the knowledge is power, and I wouldn't have the knowledge in my head now to give them the 30 quid, and it's not even real money.
No, I know. It's
You
absolutely
can't write it.
crazy. I know. It's absolutely crazy. Um, so you said obviously there've been the last time I spoke to you, which was a few weeks back, I think you were kind of in hiding. Is that still the case?
Yeah, well, it's going to be the case, man, but technically I am, but I'm not really because they can't prove the claim. They're claiming they've got a warrant, but without the warrant, I don't know who to counterclaim against. So the only name I've got is the policeman who's currently trying to maliciously prosecute me for assault. Now he was I had a little brawl with him, but he was in the process of committing trespass, fraud by misrepresentation. He was impersonating the police constable. He was using force in a civil matter, which is a belligerent act of terrorism. And he's actually expired the 6 months after the fact to put the claim in. And he's waited 12 months to put the claim in. But I done 2 weeks in prison for this, Mel, and was released without charge. Now, that itself is a fundamental breach of my constitutional rights because everyone's entitled to the day in court. So how can I ascertain who's responsible for all of this if they won't tell me the name on the warrant?
No.
Because there is no warrant. So the book has to stop with the man who was impersonating the police constable, and he was coming allegedly on an emergency call for a civil matter with no victim. The book's got to stop with him because they're protecting the superior officers, which is a breach of canon law. Because when you get an order, it goes shit rolls down, as they say. So if I get an order to carry out, I've got to use my own discernment because we've got the Nolan principles, and I've got my oath of office. So I've got to decide. Well, it's a victimless crime. Is it an emergency? Well, it's not really, is it? If it's a civil matter, I shouldn't really be getting involved, should I?
And
It's
what was
bizarre.
the assault? Was that because he sort of came at you and you were defending yourself?
No, well, he's come in. He's come in. I've explained the situation to him that obviously, the I've conveyed title, equitable title for the fiction into a private trust, along with power of attorney. So I'm not authorised to contact for their name that they bestowed on me fraudulently without full disclosure. But there's no hard feelings there. Forgive them, Father. You know what I mean. So I conveyed title and got that monkey off my back, put in a private trust. But they don't like that. They don't like me operating through my own person because they can't tax me then. And they can't browbeat me and bully me then. They need me to act as their thing, their entity, which I'm done with that. So sorry, Mel, we want to repeat that question again.
Yeah, it was about why did you assault him? Was it because he came at you?
Yeah, he's as I'm telling him this, I've tried to surrender the birth certificate to him, and he keeps grabbing me. Now that's unwanted contact. That's assault. So I said, listen, stop that. That's assault. I said, show me the warrant. I need to ascertain the man who's authorised it, and then I'll gladly come with you. But I also wanted to check, Mel, if it was for the Mister Fiction or the man. Now I knew where for the man because there's no verified criminal complaint. It was a civil matter. So it had to be for the fiction because they can't deal with the man. They have to deal with the fiction. So he was unshakable on it, and he threatened me. If you're going to video this, I'll be seizing your phone as evidence. Now he had his own camera on, so and I gladly would have given him the evidence because he was in the process of committing crimes. If he wants to go and hang himself, I'd gladly give him a copy of it. So I had to pass the phone to me dad because he kept assaulting me. Anyway, he just wouldn't stop. He's pushed me mum over, and then in the back garden, I just invoked the castle doctrine and swung at him, and then he's headbutting me twice then, and he was punching me in the head with handcuffs in his hands, which is all on camera. But the initial assault was him because he wouldn't. He made a claim that he had a warrant, so I said validate your claim, and he wouldn't. So he's in commercial default anyway because he shouldn't have been involved in a civil matter anyway. But he went into commercial default when he didn't show me the alleged warrant. So he's just protecting the people who are claiming they've issued a warrant. But they put him in the shit, yeah. So if he wants to protect them, let him settle the debt, you know.
Wow. It all sounds like something you'd see in a Hollywood film, doesn't it? It's just
Well,
like
I mean,
ridiculous.
it's. I'm just glad, Mel, because it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was still a bit half asleep when I got up. So I was just glad I was on the ball. You know, I've written with some pretty good verbiage. You said, well, how am I obligated to you? No, the contract makes the law, and equity follows the law. So without a contract or a warrant, see, a warrant's got it's got a commercial value. A warrant, so someone has to authorize it. You know, or it's security fraud. It's you know it's heavy. It's absolutely heavy. But they're not going to let it go, Mel. They were never ever going to roll their hands up and say, okay, we tried to commit total global genocide. They were never going to do that. So we've just got to try and get through it as best we can and document it as best we can.
So,
Yeah.
so where we're at right now, you don't really know where you're at right now in terms
Well,
of.
where I'm at right now, Mel, round about January, round about January, they said, right, um, Judge Harris, Judge Harris said, he's going to go into the dock. I said, no. He said, what? He said, what? I said, I can't. I'm not authorised to. He said, what do you mean? I said, that name doesn't belong to me, and I've conveyed equitable title into a private trust. So I don't have power of attorney to take that name. And I won't take that name. I will not be committing fraud in the court today. So then he said, they need to put a plea in. I said, I can't. It's not my name. So then the judges put the plea in then. So the judges took full liability for the name because it's a crown name. It's not to be used as identification. And he who creates owns. So he's took ownership of it. Now, I've questioned the court on this. I said, when Harris put the plea in, I said, it's got to be one or two things. Has Harris took ownership of the name as trustee, and therefore took liability? Or is Harris attempting to administrate the trust without my consent? And it's got to be one of the two. And either way, it's fraud. So then he gave me a date, September the 1st. So a couple of weeks back, Mel, the emailed the trust and said that the case was due for a mention and that they wanted me to attend the court, but I was actually away. I was actually away with friends till the 18th last month. So me power of attorney's gone in again, and they've been served the power of attorney paperwork, and they wouldn't recognise him in the court, so they've issued another warrant, and they've gone to me mum's again, but wouldn't show the warrant. They're saying it doesn't have to be signed, but it's got to be signed. That it's security fraud. It's uttering. You know, it's got to be signed. A judge, a computer just can't issue these things. You know, someone's got to take liability, or you know, who evaluates the evidence and makes the call because people are getting terrorized domestically. Yeah. Someone's got to make the call on it, and then they're liable with their surety bond. But these don't want to acknowledge that because they don't want any liability. They want to just go around and beat the fuck out of anyone who doesn't acquiesce to their system.
So
So
are you,
that's where we're at now. So they're saying there's another warrant now, but there was already an alleged warrant, but they'll never produce them. So there is no warrant.
and what is it, and what is it saying? What for? Still for refusing to pay a fine,
No, for not going to court.
for not
But
going to court.
no, but they put the warrant out. I've put affidavits of status in explaining that I've resigned from the corporation. I'm not the fiction. My affidavits are unrebutted. I've done an ecclesiastical asseveration of faith and fact. They're unrebutted. So no one's arguing with me that I am who I say I am, and I'm flesh and blood man. And there's proof. There's proof on the video because when he butted me in the eyebrow, there's blood gushing out of my eyes now in law. Where the blood flows, the flesh lives. So I'm not the legal fiction. That's a fact on camera. But they just won't let it go. So I don't know. It's just going on. It just keeps going on and on now. And what was the question again, Mel? Sorry.
Just really where you were at, and are you going to be in court? I wanted to know why they're still gunning for you. What is the charge?
Well,
What
it's
is the
well,
offence?
they're going for me, Mel, because I've put a lot of time into my paperwork, and they wouldn't let the £30 fine go. So I've given them both barrels, if you like, a law in several jurisdictions. But they had it coming, you know. I've got a moral obligation here from what I've been through to highlight it because they're all in on it. What you've got, Mel, is a joint corporate criminal enterprise to commit global genocide through statutes and acts that don't apply to living men. But it's all based on the frauds that we owe these peasants something, and we don't because they breached the coronation oath. So that was a contract. The coronation oath was a contract, and when they broke that by making him head of state, we, not all obligations for every man and woman it dissolves with that breach. So I think they're just pissed off, but they won't stop. They keep sending the paperwork to the mister. So I just turn it into an affidavit, I'll flip it over, return to sender, and then cite their obligations to the international covenants of civil political rights because they have resigned from their office. How dare they retain me in a fucking in a job that pays nothing and costs me? So they can stick that job up their ass.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I think in simple terms, for people that are sort of watching and listening, some people might be like, Jesus Christ, you've taken all this on from the beginnings of a £30 bike fine. Are you crazy? There'll be other people thinking, well, get on, good on you, mate. You know, good for you for sticking it to the man and all the rest of it. And then there'll be people that are confused because they don't fully understand what it is you're talking about in terms of obviously our constitutional rights, and the fact that you have disassociated yourself from that legal fiction, the fact that our legal fiction is not owned by us, it's copyrighted to the Crown. And most people don't understand that. So every time, every day that we are accepting we are the Mr. or the Mrs. in capital letters, we are in fraud. When we sign that contract, whether it be for a mortgage, a loan, or whatever, we're in fraud every
Yeah,
time
well,
we do that.
that's a fact in law, that, Mel, because nobody, I think it's a maxim of law. Nobody may contract in the name of another. Now, he who creates owns. So if you look carefully at the birth certificate, they have to tell you what they do, the crafty bastards.
Yeah.
So it says a warning not to be used as identification. So if you use it, it's like if I borrow your camel, you've got every right to invoice me and say, well, I wanted to use it that day. You never told me. So it's 20% tax on whatever. That's a fact. That's how they legalize tax. No man can force his will on another. But if you're using his property, he's got every right to. But they haven't told you, so it's deceptive. They could the bank should say the bank should say, well, you sure you want to use this as ID? Because they're gonna twat you for tax, that's what I'd say. But that's their game, innit? That's their baby.
Yeah, and we've all been completely duped into the system.
Yeah, but it's a good thing, though, because they never ever thought we'd find out, and it took me 5 years to get my head around it, and I found all the laws that back it up. It's a real thing, and they've buried it well, they've hid it well, but it's a war for your soul. If you carry on using that name, you end up with the full caps on your tombstone, and God knows where
Yeah,
your soul goes. God knows where your soul goes then.
yeah, yeah. I know. I know. I had somebody on yesterday on the podcast, and he was saying, because I was saying, well, we've all been duped into it, and he was like, yeah, but ignorance is no excuse. Ignorance of the law, ignorance of the system, ignorance of this, it's no excuse. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. Ignorance is no excuse, and it's no defense. However, this is on such a worldwide wide scale, but like you said, people have started to uncover the truth of it all. And more and more people are doing it all around the world. And it's only a matter of time before it will stop. But how long that's going to take, who the bloody hell knows? Yeah. So technical issues over, and yeah, what I'm basically saying is it's all become common acceptance, hasn't it? We got duped into it, we didn't know about it, we haven't done our own due diligence, and it's common acceptance. It's like the same with using the fiat currency. It's commonly accepted.
Yeah, but
It's not lawful.
we got duped into it, Mel, but the very foundation of contracts, there's several canon laws on it, maxims. The consent it has to be voluntary. So they haven't said to you, well, don't get me wrong, I do understand years ago that we had, to get the Bill of Rights, I think we offered Anna Desiree, so she's done a very good talks on it. So when the Bill of Rights was created, we offered it. We actually offered a third of our movables for that contract of protection from the Crown, but protection off the Crown. We negotiated that. That was a contract. So when they've deposed him, we're released from that contract. But we should get our movables back because it's a breach of contract. I do understand that years ago you needed protection, but some of them were honourable. William and Mary were honourable, but they've just took the piss now. They're out for
Yeah.
themselves. It's the monarch. It's the monarch. It's against our Christian values.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
never religious, Mel. I was never religious, and I've gone that deep into law in several different jurisdictions, and it all brings you back to the Bible and the Bible. Some of the things in the Bible. I've gone through this affidavit, Mel, for my own copy, and every point I had 28 pages. I'm only up to points 40, and I've took the font down, but I've put maxims, canons, scripture. And what else? I've put several different sorts, but I've had to condense the font down, and it's gone up to 50 pages. But every point is supported by several different jurisdictions of law, and everyone's a tort. Everyone's worth money. Overriding a bike on a pavement, you couldn't write it.
I know it's
Yeah.
absolutely.
But I think their game set, Mel, was I think they can see where my paperwork's going. So I think they've issued the alleged warrant just to try and stifle me working towards perfecting a lien or whatever I'm gonna do. But I've got a few moves up my sleeve, Mel. I'm gonna do a notice of decision. I'm morally obligated to not contract with these corporations given what they've got their hands in. And it's a notice of disassociation. I've got a moral obligation not to do business with these people anymore. And I don't think they can argue with the facts, but they'll probably just ignore it and send the goons after me as they do.
And you said there was a new court date of the 1st of September. Are you going to attend that?
I don't think I'd be wise to, Mel, because no, I've put several freedom of information requests in. Now, my power of attorney can go in. Well, my affidavit is unrebutted now in law, Mel. The 10 essential maxims of commercial law. Yeah. So, an affidavit stands as truth in commerce. An unrebutted affidavit stands as truth in commerce. So, if they don't rebut it, there's not really an argument now. So they want me to go in as the fiction and let a third party with no standing or first-hand knowledge in the matter, i.e. a bar member, who shouldn't be in the court anyway because he worked for a private corporation in a jurisdiction that I don't belong in. So there's not really a dispute because they won't rebut me affidavit, So it's pretty cut and dry. So I shouldn't have to go in there. I've got no business in there, Mel.
No.
See the bar, Mel. The bar needs a contract to operate outside the city of London. Now, if I go in there, they assume I presume I'm contracted. Do you get me?
Yeah.
So I don't want to go in there, but they can't issue a warrant because they haven't got an oath. Because they can't work for the bar in a private jurisdiction if they swear an oath. And when they don't swear an oath, they're not bonded. So they need me to go in like soft Joe, so they can assume and presume, and then throw the book at me, despite the evidence, the overwhelming evidence of several different jurisdictions that the man was committing domestic terrorism when he come. But as I say, Mel, the judge Harris, I said, right. I said, no, your jury. He said, yeah. I said, are they selected from the electoral register? And he said, yes, they are. That's how they're selected. I said, in which case, Judge, they are not my peers. That's a breach of my fundamental rights of the Constitution. I said, they are going to be state-owned enterprises. Now, these people, poor jury people, you might get one or two, given what's gone on in the last 5 years, that know. Now, all of them jury people can invoke um, Article 18 and 16 of the ICCPR because you have to invoke them, see. Now, if you invoke Article 18, that's protection of religion. So let me not say pray you accept another man's person. So they're entitled to go in on a jury as the man, even though they're selected from the electoral register. Yeah. This is just exposing the fraud now. You know, you need consent. You were governed by consent. So if you're on a jury, you don't have to go in as the person because the person follows what the judge says and the judge is working for the bar. So you're inadvertently, in your ignorance, you're getting used to further the agenda of this fucking maniacal machine, you know.
Yeah.
But it's getting that information to the jury because I don't know who they are, and they're definitely not my peers because I've got my own peers who'll sign my affidavit. It's unrebutted as of today, Mel. It's gone to four top people, and it's unrebutted, and it'll remain unrebutted because they can't rebut it. What else? No, they can't rebut it. They're in too deep. So I've got no business going in their private bar guild members association, you know,
They're prob- they're
unless
probably
Mel, what I'll do, Mel, what I'll do, I'll send them an honourable notice to the judges involved in the case. See, the one who put the plea in, after he put the plea in, he stepped down it. You know what I mean? He took liability, but then he stepped down it so he can try and get joined with me again. But I'm not having it. You know, I've got witnesses that was under duress when I was in there. So I'll send them a notice and I'll say to them, I conditionally accept your offer with reassurance via production of a bond and an oath of office and assurances that the uh, the Magna Carta will be upheld as opposed to a jury of my peers. Because if they go in as state-owned enterprises, it's a jury trial, not a trial by jury, and then the judge will just tell them what to do. Yeah, so I think that's the honourable thing to do, and they're not going to respond. But then if you don't respond, they'll just say, "Well, you've got the affidavit, and only but the affidavit stands as true to comment." So I think this pretty much concludes our business.
yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm intrigued to know what happens next. What would you say? I mean, there's a lot. Your knowledge is like it far supersedes a lot of people's knowledge in terms of everything you've talked about today. What would you say for anybody watching or listening that's in maybe not a similar boat because most people aren't going to get done for riding on a bloody pavement and then it goes goes to like this. But if somebody's having a frat out with the police and they're trying to stand their ground, what would your words of wisdom be for them?
Just, I mean, you know, if you haven't committed any crime, you don't have to speak to them. That's case law, Rice versus Connolly, 1966. You know, just try and ascertain. Ask them for their oath of office. Ask them for the warrant card. And when you get that, off them, they're obligated to look after your rights, not piss on your chips. You know. See, they'll masquerade in another jurisdiction if you let them get away with it. But if you call them out on their oath and the warrant card, then they're duty bound. You know, if you want to take a piss, they have to shield you with the jacket. They're upholding your rights. Then they're not. You know. See, but no one can. It's all fraud because no one can serve two masters. So the snakes, they claim it's to protect our rights, but they're not. They're depriving our rights under the colour of law
Yeah,
for the the Eastern European bosses, the Zionist bosses.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, well, thank you, Michael, for sharing your story with us today. It's been a pleasure to have this conversation with you. I know the viewers and listeners are going to love it, get some value from this for sure. And I wish you all the very best with this. And I just hope that somebody in that organization just looks at it and says, do you know what? Let's just close this and leave the poor bastard alone
yeah,
because it's just ludicrous what you're going through.
yeah. Yeah, well, it is what it is. I didn't ask for it, Mel, but it has brought me it's brought me a lot of stress, but it's brought me a lot of knowledge, and it's also led me pretty deep into the Bible. And do not be afraid is in the Bible 365 times. So, I didn't ask for it, but it's a blessing to be walking this path. And I appreciate you putting me in touch with Robin as well. I got a few good nuggets off him.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for that, Mel. Yeah.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm glad it was really useful for you. Well, thank you again. It's been a pleasure to have this time with you and keep us posted.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Mel, and I'll keep you.